we seek to answer the question of what is the main spiritual purpose in life? What should we be trying to achieve? And more so, how should we go about starting to achieve it? We will answer this question, or these questions, by looking at two chaupais from Balkand in the Sri Ramcharitamanas. So in the version that we are doing, it's on page 4. And the chaupai begins, Binu Satsang Vivekana Hoi. Some of you may be familiar with this line, and that's good. So what we're going to do is we're going to analyze this and try to extract from it in a very clear and detailed manner how we should try to achieve this main spiritual objective that I alluded to. So, let's begin. As we normally do, we will sing the chaupais together. We will look at the translation and then we will dig deeper. And as I understand it, Pandit Adesh would be putting up the chaupais on the screen for those of you who are at home or looking online or on television, so you can follow along as well. So we begin. Binu satsang vivekana hoi, Binu satsang vivekana hoi, Ram kripa binu sulabha na soi, Ram kripa binu sulabha na soi. Satsangati muda mangal mula, Satsangati muda mangal mula, Soi phal siddhi sab sadhan phula, Soi phal siddhi sab sadhan phula. Next chaupai. Satha sudharahi satsangati pai, Satha sudharahi satsangati pai, Paras paras kudhatu suhai, Paras paras kudhatu suhai. Vidhi bas sujana kusangati parahi, Vidhi bas sujana kusangati parahi, Phani mani samanij guna anusarahi, Phani mani samanij guna anusarahi. Jaya Ram Sri Rama Jaya Jaya Rama, Jaya Ram Sri Rama Jaya Jaya Rama, Sri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama, Sri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Rama. बोले श्री राजा रामचंद्र की। The translation, devotees. Binu satsang bibek or vivek as we say, na hoi. Ram kripa binu sulabha na soi. According to the translation here in the version that we are using, it reads, wisdom dawns not without association with the saints, and such communion cannot be easily enjoyed without the grace of Sri Ram. Fellowship with the saints is the root of all joy and fortune. Its flowers are good works and its fruit perfection. The second chaupai translated as, the wicked are reformed by association with the good, just as iron is made into gold by the touch of the philosopher's stone. And if by chance good men fall into evil company, like the gem in a serpent's head, they still pursue their virtuous courses. So let's now break this down into a little simpler language. So let's just take the first part here. What Tulsi Das Ji is saying is that Binu without Satsang, Sat true, Sangha means association. You have the Sangha, you have the Sangha, right? Group of people associating together. Vivek na hoi. Vivek, you've all heard, means discrimination, but I don't like that word too much because it has certain negative connotations to it. So, discrimination means really the right vision. And I don't mean seeing, I mean right thinking. In other words, Vivek means how to see things in the right way. Understand? So, you know, you always hear Vivek and discrimination. What does that mean? Discernment is another word that's used. But again, you tell a child discernment, what's that? So, it means seeing things the right way, thinking the right way. So, it means that whatever happens in the world, there seems to be a good way to think about it and a not so good way to think about it. Now remember, it has nothing to do with the world, it has to do with you. Because however I think will determine my behavior. Okay? So we have two concepts here that we'll focus on today. Satsang and Vivek. And we'll talk about both of them. But just going on, Rama Kripa Binu Sulabha Soi. So, you know, this association doesn't happen just like that. It has to be with the grace of Sri Ram. Now remember, Sri Ram isn't sitting in the sky somewhere. It just means that when you are ready, you would be naturally inclined to pursue such association. You understand? So you're trying to live a good life, you're trying to find yourself, you want to do good things. Somehow you're normally, you're naturally moved into this association with the right people. Okay. Going on, the fellowship with the saints is the root of all joy and fortune. So really the point here that Tulsidas is making is that this starting point is this good association with the right people, right things, right materials, to set your mind in the right way. And from this, everything else good will follow. So you don't have to worry about pursuing everything good. According to Tulsi Das, just do this, and everything else will come. Okay? Now the second one, we have examples given. So, the first example, wicked people, and you can infer what is a wicked person. What is a wicked person? It's a good question. Are some people born wicked? Other people just good? Or is there a mix? What is it? It's a good question. So the answer is right here. If you go back to it and look at it deeply, those people who are wicked don't have vivek. And those people who are good have vivek. In other words, it comes down again, as we say, to your mind. How you think. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho. The way you think will determine whether you're bandha in bondage or moksha, you're liberated. That's all. Okay? So no magic anywhere, it all has to do with you and how you think. So if you have a wicked person, this means that this person isn't thinking right. You take a criminal, you take people all over. if you look at the underlying reasons for why they behave, how they behave, it goes down to the way that they think. There's nothing else. And of course, the way that somebody thinks, is multifactorial. Again, a big word meaning there are lots of reasons why. How you were brought up, your culture, your religion, the examples you see around you, your schooling, all of these things affect the way that you think. All right. So just this first example here, the wicked are reformed by association with the good. And we have an example, a simile, like iron is made into gold by the touch of the philosopher's stone. So, is this Harry Potter here? Harry Potter and the philosopher's stone? A philosopher's stone is basically a stone, from alchemy, which means that you just take it and you could touch things and you could convert it into something else. So you could convert iron into gold, something fairly mundane into something very valuable. So the example here is given, wicked people who don't think correctly, can be reformed, made better by the right association with the good. In the same way that iron can be made into gold by the touch of a philosopher's stone. That's an example. The second example given now, if by chance good men, so somebody who's thinking in the right way, who has vivek, if good men fall into evil company, bad company, like the gem in a serpent's head, so again according to mythology, there, and you see this throughout Ramcharitamanas, there's a serpent, and in its head there's a wonderful gem. But you can't just go and take that gem. The gem is there because if you try to get it, well, snake will bite you, right? But there's a gem in the head of the serpent, meaning with this dangerous creature, some people consider snake to be evil and whatnot, you have a gem right inside of there. So if by chance good men fall into evil company, like the gem on the serpent's head, they still pursue their virtuous courses. Meaning that a person who has vivek, who thinks in the right way, who has the right vision, wherever that person may go, in whatever environment, that person still sticks to that virtue, that right way of thinking. And so that person is not perturbed. So reading into this, the idea is from these two examples, there are no losses in thinking the right way. Yes? Okay. So that is the overall idea. And let me make the mundane point, of course, for the children. We have the children from the children's home listening. The mundane point, it is very important to analyze and decide who it is you want to associate with. In other words, who you want to become friends with. And I extend it even more than that. The kind of things you read, the kinds of shows you watch, who you follow on social media. The thing is that whatever information you have coming into you, that influences the way that you think. Yes? So this is why we say some things are good and some things are bad. It's not good and bad of its own. It just depends on how you use it. Okay? So, you have all of these things that we consider bad. Why? You have bad company, joining gangs, pornography, all sorts of things. And why do you think it's bad? It is bad because it influences your mind and your thoughts a certain way. And once you think a certain way, then you tend to behave that way. Straightforward. There is nothing else. So if you want to get goodness in your life, you have to change the way you think. Now, let's dig a little deeper into these two words, satsang and vivek. Okay? So the aim here, normally you have things flying past, you talk about vivek, this, that, but there isn't a deep understanding what it is, and there isn't a focus on practicing it. So that is what we're trying to do. Okay? So first of all, vivek, discrimination, discernment, we're going to call it right vision. Now, how do we define this? Discrimination or right vision is being able to tell the difference between two things. Okay? So if I give you a stone and a piece of iron, could you tell the difference between the two? Yes? How? What do you use to tell the difference between two things? The properties. The color, the shape, the texture, how it feels in your hand. Yes? So this is, let me use another example. Yesterday evening we visited an elder member in the family, and there were some nice trees in the backyard. So my children's nana, he was asking them, tell me what is that tree? Tell me what is that tree? So of course, my children, just like me, we're not too familiar with kinds of trees and the fruits that grow on them, right? So for Abhinav, for example, everything was balata. For some reason, all the trees were balata trees. Maybe he likes balata. And there were other trees like soursop, mango, whatever. But the thing is, when you don't know, you just want to guess, right? Well, maybe it's a mango tree, maybe it's a balata tree, I don't know. But for those that know, what do you do? How do you tell the difference between different trees? Yes? Exactly. So that's right. You look at the leaves, the shape, the color, the texture. You look at, how the shape of the tree is and other things. In other words, you have some knowledge that you use to see differently, right? So that is what makes it difference between someone who knows, who has knowledge, wisdom, who has vivek, discernment, versus somebody who, I don't know, I just guess, right? So the point I'm making is this right vision we are talking about is being able to tell the difference between two things, always. Being able to tell the difference and to choose wisely. So we come to the question now, well, what two things are we talking about? In the scriptural sense. What two things? And here now is where things may get potentially difficult. So let me start with the easier one first. Discernment or vivek or right vision means being able to tell the difference between what is real and not real. And by real, I'm going to define that as permanent and unreal as impermanent. Okay? So now you tell me, what is permanent and what is impermanent? This is the question. So we're testing your vivek. Anybody here name Vivek by any chance? No, we have no Vivek here. All right. I hope by name, but we hope we have some people with Vivek, right? All right. I'm going to call a few things, and you tell me whether it's Vivek or not. Your house. Not Vivek, sorry. Whether it's permanent or impermanent. So use your Vivek, right? Your house. Is your house permanent or impermanent? It's impermanent because, at some point, and those of us who have houses know, a tree might fall on it, right? Something mash up somewhere, building fall, it have flood. It wouldn't last forever. Okay? How about your body? Is your body permanent? No? Why not? Why isn't your body permanent? That's right. Carony or wherever, or the crematorium or somewhere, but at the end of the day, you're going to die. The body goes. Okay? Now that one is pretty close to you. Yes? So if all of this, and we could go on and on, anything I call in the world, you could say is impermanent. It's like a mirage, It doesn't last forever. It might go on for some time, but there must be an end point. There's always an end. So if all of this that we go through, and you could go through your own examples in your mind, if all of this is impermanent, the question I have for you is, what is permanent? The question of all questions, what is permanent? Now, how many of you believe that inside of you there is something that is permanent, that never ever changes, it doesn't die? How many of you believe that? Let me see. Okay. And we have different names with soul and whatnot. How many of you don't believe that there's nothing inside of you? I mean, when your body go, it go. How many of you? Remember, I'm not asking you to tell me the truth. I'm asking you to tell me what you believe. It's two different things. So how many of you believe there's nothing permanent in you? When you die, that's it. End of story. Okay. And the rest of you just don't know, I assume. We have no idea. The essence of Sanatan Dharma is understanding what is permanent and impermanent. If everything in the visible world that you could perceive with your senses, meaning things you can see, things you can hear, things you can smell, things you can taste, things you can touch, if all of these things are impermanent, then what is there that is permanent? And this answer to this question is not something I can tell you. This is the problem. This is something that you have to figure out on your own by yourself. And this is the work. This is the journey. This is it. You have to figure it out. So, the scriptures say now, and people who have had the experience, is that there is spirit, meaning something that you can't see. This thing exists outside space and time. So you can't see it, not through time, but it is always there. But this, what is there, is invisible. You can't see it. But what is there is what is. It is the base of everything. And we call that thing Brahman, the self, God, Rama, that which shines within. Whatever name, same thing. Okay? And there's another misconception that this thing is inside of you. For people to understand, we say, yes, Kelvin, you have a soul. It's inside of you. Look for it. So you go and look for it. But when you realize and you have the experience, then you will know it isn't something that is physically inside of you, you know. I think as human beings, we talk about inside, outside, up and down. We know space. But how you describe something that is outside of space? The base of space, like the sky everywhere. How? You can't. So this experience of the self, we call it, God, is everywhere. So what it means is that we all exist inside of that one supreme. Understand? It's a big difference, you know. So we go back to the examples, the analogies, is the best we can do. You have the fish swimming in water. Yes? So the water, the fish is in the water is inside the fish too, the fish is there. Fish might die but become one with the water. Okay? Another example, you have a movie, you go to the movie, you have the screen and you have the movie playing. So the question is, the screen is like that which is everywhere, is like the self. The movie is like you and I acting, moving about. So the question is the movie inside the screen or the screen inside the movie? What is it? The actors are, of course, inside of the screen, projected onto the screen. So I've used these examples to illustrate what we mean when we say Vivek. So let's bring it back practically now. For a person who has gone through the spiritual process, and you analyze, no amount of puja, mantra jap, pilgrimage could get you to that point. Those things are stepping stones. But the work has to be done by you, by yourself, internally in your own mind and your own experience, till you get that, meditative experience, that there is a big difference between the world and you. So remember the start I said there are two things, and you have to pick which one you are. How many of you walk around feeling that you are everywhere? Let me see. How many? Well, not me. Let me put on my hand. Right. The Jnani, the liberated one, walks around not aware that he is just his body. He is aware of being awareness. And when I say awareness, don't misunderstand. It doesn't mean I am aware. That Supreme Spirit is pure awareness that is everywhere. It is sentient and awareness. That sentience, that awareness looking through you, looking through me, looking through you, looking through you, same thing. But we don't feel that way, do we? We feel, I am this person, I move around, I drive my car, go from place A to B. And this is the illusion it's called. When we say the illusion of individuality, this is what we mean. Okay? So, coming back to Vivek then, the person who has this Vivek, how they operate. All of us, when things don't go the way we want, we get dejected, depressed, we get upset, we run after things of the world. But based on what I just said, everything that you do, it means you're running after a mirage, always. Even though you go and grab something, you're going to lose it at some point. So, The person who has Vivek, it is being said here, is that person who knows the difference and could tell, not real, not real, not real. What is real? Self, I. And not this body I, but my true self is real. And therefore, nothing perturbs me like this because I always am. That is the highest level of Vivek. Now, I'm going to make the assumption that most people, are not at that level. There is another analogy that's used. You've probably heard this one, the snake and the rope. You've heard that one? Where Maya, the illusion of the world is described like this. You have a rope on the ground. The place is still dark. You're walking outside and you see a snake. Why you see a snake? Because you feel it's a snake. But when you put on the light or you go and kick it, you realize it's just a piece of rope. It can't do anything. Yes? Right. So you've all heard this many times. And my question to you is, so what? What that means to you? What? You want me to explain? Well, at least I can tell you how I see it. So, inside of you, your body and mind is like the rope and the snake. Now watch it. Your body and mind came into this world, yes? And you started to grow and develop, and it's made out of matter. Yes? I can step up myself, you can feel it. Yes? Physical. So your body and mind, even your mind, is like rope. But what happens is that we perceive it to be like a snake. Something alive, something exciting that will last forever and will go on. But when you shine the light of wisdom, Vivek, when you shine the light of wisdom by looking at it in the right way, you realize that that is just not true. This is not a snake, it is a rope. So you see the snake on Lord Shiva there? It means realizing that you are like that snake. You're not independent by yourself. You are attached always to that Shiva, that one self. Again. But the big problem is you identify as a snake. You don't identify as the self. And these days all the rage is to identify. Look at how it is. So despite your biology, you could identify as what you want. And you feel free. You can identify as a man, as a woman, as a cockroach, as a Coke bottle, whatever you want. You could identify with it. But Sanatan Dharma says the problem is in the identification. So you identify with all these things that are not you. And so we come back now to the practice, which is neti. Not this, not that, not that, not that. Whatever remains is what I am, the self. But you can't describe it. You can't. It doesn't. The self is not of the physical world. Okay? So, the main point I'm making here with Vivek is that you want to be able to get to this point where you know this to be true. Most of you are hearing these words and you're hearing it for years, but you don't know it to be true. For me, partially, I know it to be true. And you have to go through certain experiences for that, mostly unpleasant experiences. But this neti concept is what we do. So let's now come to the second part, which is the satsang part. All right, well, whether you like it or not, you have to get to that point somewhere, somehow. So how do you go about? Say you're fed up of the world. You realize, okay, now this doesn't mean you can't enjoy life, nor take care of yourself. Don't misunderstand me at all. Everything is that one self. So you still do what you have to do, right? Enjoy what you have to enjoy. All you need to know in your head is just it doesn't last. And once you know that, you're always free and happy. You get something, you lose something. Whatever, it doesn't matter to you. So this is what we mean from Vivek, you go to Vairagya. And we say dispassion, it really means, let me put it like this. Vairagya is built upon Vivek. Once you start to see things correctly, then things don't bother you anymore. It's easy for you to let go. Make sense? And that's what it is. Okay? So, to get to that point, you need to have a practice. You have to start somewhere, which is what we've been trying to do over the years. So what is the practice now? We come to Satsang. So I'm going to assume that you're interested in your own development. You want to get to that point. You want to know who you are. What to do? What to do? Satsang. Sat means true. Sang means association. So you could look at this word satsang meaning an association that is true or an association where you learn the truth. Okay? You can take it in different ways. But the idea is that it is very unlikely you could sit by yourself and be propelled in this direction. So the advice of the scriptures would be, put yourself in an environment, surround yourself with those things that could move you forward spiritually. And again, the mundane point, same thing with friends, school, whatever. You always associate with people who could pull you up, not push you down. Okay? So, to wrap up this satsang point now, you want to associate to help you think the right way. How do we learn? Don't we learn by observing those around us? Your parents, your guru, people who we trust should, lead us the right direction. So you want to model these people. So the essential point is we think and do whatever we expose our minds to. Okay? So when you come here every Sunday, you run about the world for the week. When you come, hopefully we just try to pull you back in, pull you back in, pull you back in. Like a cow, you're pulling back in, pulling it back in. And after some time, you'll be able to pull back in yourself. That is it. Okay? So I'm going to summarize this satsang with a little model I like to use, and this is very important. Many people have asked, many young Hindus especially, all right, I'm now getting started with Hinduism. And to be honest with you, it doesn't matter to me whether it's Hinduism or whatever religion. Let's say spirituality. What to do, how to get started, or what should I be doing? There are 3 things that are necessary, and these 3 things work together. Okay? Number 1, you need a guru. And guru don't mean guru just in the sense. A guru means a person who has knowledge and experience. Guru, he can remove the darkness from you, right? By how he speaks, how he behaves. So it's both, not just what he's saying, but how he behaving too. Okay? So you have guru. The second thing, like what we are doing here, you have scriptures, right? Now, I'll touch this in a minute because you have different kind of scriptures, and sometimes in the scriptures you find a bit of nonsense, right? So I'm not one of those people to tell you, believe everything you read in a book. You don't have to, but don't discount it either. Just take it for what it is, okay? And in Sanatan Dharma, our problem is we have so many books. Other religions, it have one book. Just go and read that. Here we had to figure out which one to use, what age you are, go tell you what to read, tell you what to forget. So let's not make it complex, okay? Scriptures, appropriate to you. And the last and most important one is your own intellect. Jai Guru Ganesh, that Ganesh in your head. So when we sing about Ganesh, you're trying to develop that Vivek quality in you. God help me see things the right way. Yes? And that is the most important one. Isn't it me? That is the most important one. Now, you have Guru, you have scriptures, you have your own intellect. You must never believe anyone in isolation. Only when all 3 agree, then you must take it on. So you may have a guru, and I don't mean I said guru, a teacher, whoever, might be a crackpot. You may have scriptures or books, you don't know who write that. Right? So I am by nature skeptical. I would read something, but if it makes no sense to me, I'll just, all right, I'll take what I could. But you don't believe that alone. And finally, your own intellect. If it's something not making sense to you, why take it? The Buddha said, believe nothing no matter where you read it, or who said it, no matter if I have said it, unless it agrees with your own reason and common sense. So what I'm saying to you, especially in the world we live in now, and let's face it, some of the worst people you could find in temple, mosque, church ever. Some of the worst people. Look at priests abusing children over years, people covering it up. I have no brief for no religion, anything like that. I'm a, a humanist at heart. Do the right thing, right? And so judge each person, each thing you read on its own, and make sure it aligns carefully with your thinking. So, to make it clear, don't judge your own thinking by itself. Don't judge people who teaching and talking to you by itself. Don't judge the books that you read by itself. Put all three together, and we call this triangulation. Is that triangle? Like the Trishul? So put all three together at all times, and if it makes sense to you, you take it. And if you do that, in my mind, this is what we refer to as Satsang. So, I'm not looking for membership, you know. If you come, I wouldn't tell you come to the temple, this is Satsang. Well, I mean, for me, I hope it's Satsang. But wherever you could find that environment to go, you go. If it is provided in temples, wherever, and you could trust, you go. But it is good to find yourself there, in the environment. Okay? Satsang. Read. The reading that you do, what we are doing here every day, that is Satsang as well. And your own internal analysis is Satsang with yourself. The most important part. Okay? So let me summarize then. Based on these two chaupas today, we spoke about this quality called Vivek that we all need to develop. There's no, if, and buts about it. It must be developed on the spiritual path. To develop Vivek, which is right vision, not seeing the rope as a snake, you want to see the rope as a rope, know who you are. You need to start by practicing Satsang, true association. To practice Satsang, you need to have three things. You need to have a guru or teacher, someone who knows the way. The second thing, you need to read scriptures. And the third thing that you have to do is develop this own internal intellect. In other words, that's the Vivek developing there, your own intellect. And the last thing I would say, devotees, I've made this mistake over the years. And you know what that mistake is? The mistake is to believe that everything you think about yourself is true. Think about that. You have a little voice in your head, Umesh, blip, 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 right? Day and night saying things. Nobody ever stops to question if this voice in your head is true. So we all have a perception of ourselves. I am good, I am bad, I don't have any goals, I feel depressed, this world makes no sense. All these thoughts have come. But you don't question those thoughts, do you? Do you? You just accept them as they are. And let me tell you, let me just move a little into the clinical psychology side. You need to learn to question yourself. Don't believe your own thoughts about yourself unless you have tested it out properly. So, what I can say, if you go back to Satsang and all of these practices are hard for you, you can go the Sharanagati path, but you have to do it 100%. There's nothing like an 80% Sharanagati, mean surrender. Okay? So, either you do that way, or you could go the Jnani way, self-analysis, meditation, and try to do that way, or a mix of both, Jnana Bhakti. But whatever it is, I've pointed out to you this morning what the journey is about. Okay? So, let me wrap it up with a nice little analogy I like to use. Remember the story, the little incident of the man under the tree? A man is sitting under the tree, nice and quiet, like we sitting now. You see on the road a nice girl walk past, and for some reason, especially, men are across the world, that's another katha again, but they can't see a woman and just leave her alone. The man might be married, he have a girlfriend or whatever, bet you anything, all them head turns so, and I had to tell the lady something. I am tired seeing that. Anyway, so he sees this girl walk past and, nice girl. Come out from under the tree, go out to talk to her in the hot sun. She say, hey man, what you talking to me for? I don't want to talk to you, gone. And he gets upset, whatever, goes back under the tree, sit down again, cool and calm, relax. That incident finish. Something else happen, he will go out from under the tree, get burned up again, come back. Something else happens, you go out, try it again, get burnt, and come back. And this is the story of our lives. You're always running behind something, you're getting burnt, and then you have to come back. Remember, devotees, the happiness that you seek is your true nature. It is not something to be attained anew, afresh. It is something that is always there, but you have to have the right vivek to know what to give up, brush off everything, and just remain as you are. So you don't have to force it. You don't have to try too hard. Okay? So then finally, remember, you could go back in Sri Ramcharitamanas, and if you ever forget what it is you're supposed to be doing, Binu Satsang Vivekana Hui. Without Satsang, then this Vivek wouldn't come. So begin this Satsang by focusing on Guru, scriptures, and your own internal Guru. We will conclude here for today. Bole Sri Raja Ramachandra ki Jai.